Eva Goetze, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me.
Super excited to have you here. So I'm glad that we got to make our acquaintance at our buddy Andrew's content and creators meet. I was super excited to hear what it is that you did for a living. First of all, I found it very rare. I've never heard of anybody that does what you do. And then after talking to you and getting to kind of know your personality, honestly, that's the thing that attracted me to you the most.
Thank you.
She's such a bundle of energy. I could
Too
imagine.
much?
No, not too much at all. I could imagine bringing my kids to you. They're not going to get bored with this girl.
Oh, yeah.
She's got the energy for everybody.
Yes.
So why don't you do us a favor, introduce yourself,
Absolutely.
Tell us a little bit about your background, how you got into doing what you're doing, and then we can kind of go from there.
Awesome. Thanks so much. Yeah, that was a really fun, I think one of the best meetups I've ever gone to. Actually, I would say the best meetup I've gone to because of the people there, and it was you. I was very thankful to hear your approach to parents and communication and athletes, and there's just so much synergy. So it was just like a good blessing. So thank you. So my name is Eva Goetze. I am the founder of College Advising Boutique, and I also have a background in the corporate world as well. So they're typically college advising. Well, we can go more into this. Sorry.
Right.
So let's talk about my background. How did I come to be where I'm at? I've always been like kind of a teacher. I'm the oldest of 3 kids, and my little brother was having a tough time in algebra. And so I remember having a lot of fun in math because we would use Skittles and M&Ms. And so to teach my brother, because he didn't want Dad to teach him, he would make him cry. I was like, hey, we got this. Don't worry about Dad. Just take our time. And if we have to do it 1,000 times, we're going to learn this so that you can teach someone else. And that was kind of like the first real teaching, making it fun. And I got to see him excel and do better in algebra. And I was like, okay. So I went off to college, and then I decided let's go out to Italy and let's teach English over there. So I went to Italy and I taught. I went to Spain, I taught English, and then I went to Guatemala. This is after I graduated. I went to Guatemala, and I just kept on teaching to kids, all ages. Sometimes it would be elementary, et cetera, and I was teaching them English. So always just not even having an English background in college, but just understanding how they needed to learn and how best to teach them with their learning style. And then from there, I got accepted to grad school, and I was teaching hundreds of undergrads. And I saw it wasn't as fun for me because they would just listen. Versus in high school and middle school, the kids have so many cool questions, and you could really just joke around with them, and they didn't just want to hurry up and get an A and move on. Right. So I found I really loved that niche. And when I was in grad school, I was part of a tutoring agency, and I was teaching these kids. And then I, eventually graduated from that tutoring agency, kind of just did my own thing, teaching at a private school English, and then after that, also tutoring kids, but they would get older. And so originally I started with them maybe in 3rd grade, 5th grade, 7th grade. And then by the time they're in 10th, 11th, they're like, hey, Miss G, can you help me get into college? I'm like, I'd love to. Here's what you do. Here's how I got accepted to grad school. Here are the communication and the networking and all the things you need to do to really have the strongest portfolio possible. And then from there, it just started launching. And so I would say it's been about 18 years of experience. I've helped over probably between Instagram, TikTok, social media, I've helped over 40,000 students just with the social media, but then one-on-one over 1,000 students to get into college and just better also their academics.
That's awesome.
Yeah,
That's
thank you.
Such a rewarding career to be able to do. I mean,
It's
for
fun.
me as a parent, I'm a parent of 4. I have one child that just decided college wasn't for him.
Mm-hmm.
We had that conversation when he graduated. It was like, okay, the next step generally whenever someone gets out of high school is where you're going to go to college.
Mm-hmm.
But I was at a point in my life where I was like, you know what? Do you really want to go to college? Because there's so many, the education that you can do now online, finding a trade, what do you want? I was more, I did the same thing with him that I do to my kids in sports. I did it to him with school.
Absolutely.
And I was like, what do you want to do?
Yeah.
What do you want to study? And he just had this blank look on his face, like he didn't know.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, well, so I started throwing out stuff that I knew he was interested in. I said, I know you like computers. What about computers? What about coding? What about gaming? What about all this stuff? So we started talking about it, and it ended up taking him to doing a trade school for 13 months. He got his little certificate, got a job. Now he's been in the workforce for the last couple of years. And
Awesome.
so he's taken a different route. My youngest daughter, we talked about, she got a scholarship to play athletically. So now she's going to go to school to play athletically, so she doesn't have to worry about that. And I got a younger son. So when I met you, I was asking those conversations. I was like, this would be a great conversation for parents to kind of see really, it really helps them see the big picture for their child, to know that it's not just about athletics, where it could take them, that they can also have a track B where they're getting their kids prepared to go to college, just to go to college. And let's just say maybe their kid doesn't get the athletic scholarship they're looking for, but they do get into the college and they do make enough money to pay for their college. It's a win-win. And if they want to try out and walk on to a team, they can do that too. So I thought that what you did, your profession was great. I figured having you on here would be an amazing conversation. So I'd like to know a little bit more about the details. Like when you get a brand new student that comes in, and I know you said you get students in 3rd grade, 5th grade, 6th, 7th grade, whatever the case may be. Let's just say you get a standard person that comes in. I'm going to use my son as a case example.
Bring it on.
8th grader. He's just about to get to 9th grade. And correct me if I'm wrong, but that's when it starts to count. Everything starts to count at 9th grade, right? Because now it's all on the record, your transcripts and everything. What's your process of figuring out kind of what the child wants to do and how to get them to get to where they want to be?
Good question, and I'll touch on that in a second. Let's go back to 7th, 8th grade.
Yes.
The foundational motivation and education, actually, I would argue, starts there. Because very similar, you could say, well, I'm going to go run a race today, or I've been training for the past 2 years, and now I can run a race today. Everything helps to prepare you. So even though colleges may or may not only look at high school, there's certain things that you can be doing in 7th and 8th grade to actually propel you forward for high school and also get you ready for college. I have an 8th grader right now. We're studying PSATs. If he crushes those PSATs and he's able to be the top 5%, he gets a phenomenal scholarship that can already help him. And he doesn't even have to be in 9th grade yet. And so that's a really, really big thing. Depending on, of course, there's 2,000 universities. Not all of them need an SAT. For some, it's optional, and we'll talk about this later. I always argue it's not necessarily optional, because if you want to be exceptional, what do exceptional students do? But also depends on the college and depends on the major. So what exactly do I do? When I meet with my 8th and 9th grader, we go through 3 different phases. I know you have 5, and we do a pre-assessment. So we do it all together, and it's really empowering for the teen or the early preteen, because they're learning so much about themselves, their passions, their quirks, and also their career avenues. And I think what's really interesting, and I would argue not all college advisors do this, not all of them help them with the essay. I love the essay. I love bringing the voice and helping the kids see that the skills that you learn in your essay and your voice, you can use that for a job interview. You can use that for, whatever. It's not just a college interview, right? Like everything. And so it's very similar in a pre-assessment. It's motivating them to look within themselves and figure out not just what do I want for college, but what do I want in a career for my life? What lifestyle do I want? And a lot of kids, especially at 14, 15, they've only heard college. This is what you do. And it's like college may or may not be it, but college is also only potentially 3 to 5 years, depending on what track. Could be 6 years, depending what track you're on. So let's look even beyond that. What's the bigger canvas that you want to paint?
Painting the picture.
Yeah. So I really love looking at it first from let's go start at the end, and then we'll work backwards. The pre-assessment, it's I call it kind of like a high school audit, and I have a variety of questions, and I take them through, like really helping them to understand their personality, their career, figuring out what their gifts naturally are, and also what they want to learn. Because even though you like, for example, I love people. I love talking with people. And if you made me become an engineer in code, I don't know how much I'd like that. Right. But there's something really cool to me about carpentry and electrician and investing and numbers. And so there's all these other components that I'm not very naturally strong at, but I am so curious about that. I will read the book. I will listen to the podcast, kind of like what we were talking about before the show. So part of the assessment is figuring out not just what are they naturally great at and their strengths and their superpowers, but also what are some things that they would like to learn? What are they curious about? And then also with my background, I was in fintech, I was in AI, I was a chief of staff and a COO, and I worked my way up after grad school into that. I know what jobs are looking for. Mm-hmm. So if all you have are straight A's from college and you have 0 internship experience, you haven't done any leadership with clubs, you haven't kind of done even your own cool projects, those are the cool things that we can start in 8th grade, 7th grade, 9th grade, and we can continue on. I have one kid and he's like, well, every month I want to try a different business. And I'm like, we could, or how about let's make a list, think of all your crazy ideas now, paint that canvas, then let's bring it down and be like, okay, what's actually going to exist in 5-10 years? Let's use AI.
Exactly.
Yeah. Hey, ChatGPT or Gemini or whatever. And then from there, let's figure out which ones excite you. And I do the same thing with the essays, and that's kind of like our phase 3. Sorry, I'm going all around, but like out of all these essays, which ones are really hard to answer? We're not going to focus on those yet. Let's just start easy. Let's have something fun. What is it? And it's like, what's a hobby that you really love? One of my students, she started a thrifting business, and it was phenomenal. It was the easiest essay to write. I find this very true. When the kid loves what they're doing, the words just flow, and we hardly have to edit anything. A few little tweaks here and there, maybe a stronger hook, a stronger conclusion, making sure we incorporate the major, and it's like the portfolio kind of all matches. But if we focus on the hard thing first, I had one kid, and he's like, I only want to focus on the Stanford essays. I'm like, really, you're trying to jump the gun and just go and be like the best sprinter. When, hold on, we need to work on the practice, we need to work on the conditioning, et cetera.
Right, you want to get those easy wins.
Yeah, absolutely. So I start with so going back to the phases, the pre-assessment for the kid, and then from there we go into a little bit more focused on the exploration with their career, their major, et cetera. Phase 2, we put a plan together, and I'm not doing any of this for them. I'm there to guide them, but they're really empowered and excited to work around their busy summer schedule, to work around, I got to visit mom here, and then here we're going to the grandparents, or maybe they're working on launching their thrifting business using apps, et cetera. So we look at the end in mind. Senior year, do you really want to be working on your applications during senior year when there's homecoming and SAT tests and no, like
all the activities and festivities they have.
Exactly. There's so much there. And so instead, why don't we see if we can start like the end of junior year? Like that's our end point, even before summer's even starting. Because
so you can have kids lock stuff up by the end of their junior year.
I mean, honestly, I could have kids probably done their sophomore year, but the hardest parts I would say are having the essays finalized, because everything else just takes time. We have extracurricular activities. Well, you can't just do that one semester or one project. You need to start that early, and you don't need to do a whole bunch, but we can figure out where we really want to hone in and gain that experience early on, and then you just continue, right? You have like a set plan. Every Sunday I am volunteer. I have there's some students in Coronado, and they have started their own business using all the extra fruit that neighbors don't necessarily need. There's a lot of oranges and nectarines, and they take those to like a Feeding San Diego type thing, and they just started doing that on their own with all the extra fruit. So it's like they put it into a plan. So that's kind of phase 2. We figure out what exactly is going to be our due dates. A lot of times there's going to be sports and other things. So allowing the flexibility, I always have an extra buffer no matter what. And then from there, we execute phase 3 and work on the essays. And then there's always a little bonus extra credit. Do you want scholarships? Would you like an extra $500 here for one book and $300 here? There's so many awesome scholarships out there. You just have to be willing to maybe write a little 50 to 150 word essay with ChatGPT to give you ideas.
Right.
Not help you completely.
Utilize the tool as a tool.
Yeah, to
and get
help
the most
you.
out of it.
Yeah. So those are the. Sorry,
that's great. That's all
really
good
long,
stuff.
But
I was
essays.
the thing I wanted to go that I enjoyed about what you just said is that it's not much different than the process that I have with my athletes.
So similar.
It's not much different than that. Is really figuring out a way to get them to understand what it is that they want, and then being able to figure out, okay, what does it take to get there? Figuring out the plan, executing the plan, and understanding kind of what their responsibilities are and how they're to be accountable for whatever goals they want. Like everything you're saying is what I teach.
I know,
but
that's cool
for athletics, right? But they go hand in hand, and obviously, if you want to go to school to play a sport, college, you need to have your academics in line.
Yep.
So understanding and having a plan that was cool. I didn't know about the SAT part, or if you get let's say you take the SATs as a freshman, you get a phenomenal score. Good?
Good question. First, typically ninth graders will take the PSAT. They might take it in 10th grade.
One, right.
Yeah, so there's the PSAT for those. Some students, really, their brain works better with the ACT. So even though they'll take the PSAT, they might naturally just do better ACT, and they're a little bit different. One focuses just a little bit more on a different learning style. Reading is emphasized both sides, but I would say like there's a little bit more on the science side with one, and et cetera. So it's in ninth and 10th grade, you can technically take just the PSAT. But what I like to remind kids is you're going to be probably taking this test 3 to 5 times if you want a competitive score.
Right.
The beautiful thing about taking the pretest is we get to find out
Where you are.
where you are.
Foundation.
And also, depending on your learning style, it's possible the PSAT and SAT, no matter how much you study, 1 whole year, 2 whole years, private advising, maybe you're just, that's a little bit challenging. And that's okay, because again, there's 2,000 colleges and
Right.
many of them don't necessarily require it. For those students that are a little bit more on the, I don't want to say competitive, but because I know sometimes they're labeled as high achievement. Like the high achievement student will go to Harvard, to Yale, the top 5% of schools that have a 2% acceptance rate or a
Right.
98% rejection rate. For those, there's so much more that encompasses it than just the test, right? Like colleges are now judging you 17 different ways at least. And even parents don't realize this either. There's certain things. How many times have you visited the website? Have you gone to some of the webinars that ask questions? Have you been on campus and did you connect with some of the professors and the advisors? So there's so many things that you can do to help really build relationships and
Right.
also figure out if you even like that
Right.
school.
It might be something that you
Yeah.
saw and it's in your brain as like, this is my dream school. And then you've went to it a couple times. You're like, nah, I'm not really feeling this.
Yeah. Yeah. I find something interesting is sometimes parents have gone to a certain Ivy League school and they want their kid to be able to also go to that school because they had such a phenomenal time. But that student might be might learn differently, might have different goals, might also not want anything to do with that huge campus or the name. Because
Right.
with some of it, they're like, I don't want to do I want to do my own thing. And that's a really exciting thing to help share with the parent and the teen, help them see it together. Because at the end of the day, one of the most important things is that email you open up says yes, and it doesn't say no just because your parents wanted you just to apply to it and get in on their behalf, right? Very similar to like, what was the athlete? There's a great quote that you shared in your class, and it was like, do you just want them to fulfill your childhood dreams and being an athlete?
Oh, yeah.
And it's
Yeah.
very similar.
Yeah, I mean, us as parents, we want the best for our kids, right? But a lot of times, instead of figuring out what the kid wants, which I think the best thing for any kid to have, whether it's an athletic thing or if it's an academic thing, is to figure out what the kid wants. Because if you don't like it, you're not going to be interested. Like we were talking about it earlier. Like I didn't really become a voracious reader until I was like 25 years old. Like I hardly read any books. I read what I was supposed to in school, but once I learned how to actually read a book, and the way that I learned was I lived in LA. I was acting for a bunch of years, and I had a really cool roommate, Danny Eads, good friend of mine. We were total opposites. Everywhere, and we hung out all the time. We even worked together for a while. We had acting classes together. We worked together. We lived together. So we were always together. And then this kid always had a book with him. Always, wherever we went, he had a book. Like I found it strange. And then his father was coming to visit, and his father was Daniel Eads Sr., and him and his wife are both doctors, and they created that book called Protein Power.
Oh, cool.
So it's a big book,
Nice.
sold probably hundreds of millions of copies or whatnot. But anyway, I thought to myself, this guy's going to come visit. I'm going to be able to talk to him. Like, I want to ask this guy who's uber successful a question, but I don't want to be that guy that asks him like a million questions. I want to ask one. So what's the best, most pertinent question I can ask if I had only one shot to ask a question? And so I asked him. All I said was, we just were talking in the living room while he was waiting for Danny. And I said, hey, Mr. Eads, what's the number one thing someone needs to do to be successful? That's the only question. I thought it was very
question.
general, and it could be whatever.
Yeah.
And without hesitation, he said, read.
Yep.
That's it. That's all I said. Read. Anything you can get your hands on, read. And I was like, and then it made sense. It clicked. I was like, oh my God.
Yep.
Danny always has a book. And Danny was a smart guy, super smart guy, fun guy. I had a great time living with him in those several years. But ever since then, I realized the power of reading, the power of vocabulary, the power to be able to get your point across, to articulate how you speak, the power to be able to understand ideas. I mean, everything in life can be learned from reading, in my opinion. And I think that that's something that is not taught, that people kind of use a book as a way to get through something as opposed to like enhancing your life.
Okay, but what about, and I'm going to challenge you here, what
Yes.
about the 6 different learning? There's over 6 different learning styles, right? For some kids, reading will really help build an exciting story in their mind. But for others, it's maybe more on the kinesthetic, like more of the motion. And for others, it's auditory. I had one student, and we would work on, this was, back when I was just tutoring, and we would work on things, and it just didn't quite click. But the moment he would write down, whether it was a Spanish word, a term, we would write sentences and put little pictures. He would write it down one time, and he would remember it for the rest of the afternoon. But then I made sure, hey, tomorrow morning when you're brushing your teeth, you're checking this out. When mom's driving, or your father or grandpa or guardian is driving you to school, you're reading like at least 5-10 minutes. You are reviewing, because like that's the way like it worked best for his memorization. Right. So I would say, yes, reading's fantastic. For some, it might be they are, whether it's watching a YouTube video about something and they're able to see all the pictures or hear a story. Yeah, so there's different ways.
And the example I was giving, I was never a reader. I was a visual guy.
That's true.
Like I learned visually. And now there are so many different types of ways to learn that there's just so many different options. There's podcasts, there's YouTube tutorials, there's AI to help you. There's so many different ways. I think that it all boils down to, and you said it in your statement there, is figuring out how that individual child learns best. Because everybody's different. The same thing from a coaching standpoint. When I'm coaching a player, there's one player that I get a feel for them as we're doing stuff. You kind of joke around with them, see if they open up. Oh, are they extroverted? They do open up. They do like to have fun. Nice. Oh, this person's a little one word answer, a little bit more reserved. So you kind of figure out those people, and then I can better coach that person to get something out of them because I know the child. I think it's the same way when it comes to learning. And for me, like I said, it was like an epiphany for me that I learned, like, oh my God, I can learn anything I want through a book.
So cool.
And I remember reading, what was the second, Hannibal.
Ooh, haven't
so
read
Hannibal
that one.
was the second to Silence of the Lambs. I read the book because I read it because Danny read it and he gave it to me and I read it.
Was it scary? I'm like,
you know what I loved about the book? That again, as a non-reader, and I wish that so many more kids would get into like really learning. And you were spot on. When you read something, it's all your imagination. You and I can read the exact same book and have a totally different experience. Why? Because my experiences bring me to a certain conclusion when I read something. In my mind, it creates it this way, but yours creates it this way. Well, I read it and I had this massive experience of all these places and the things that were happening in this book. And then I went and watched the movie, and that was the first time I was able to say, this movie sucked compared to what I read, because the book's 300 and something pages long, so there's so much detail. And in a movie, you usually get about 120 to 150 pages long. Like each page is roughly a minute. So it's like 60 minutes to 90 minutes. Like that's generally what you get a movie, like, because there's formulas to how that works. But I realized that I love to read. And so I've been a voracious reader ever since, and it's helped me in so many other ways. So that's why I brought that up. But I totally understand the way you learn, because everybody's different. So, so starting with that, you get a new client in, and you figure out kind of what they want to do and all that. At what point does that come in? Like when you figure out what kind of person they are, you know what I mean? Like what kind of learner they are. Is this in a questionnaire, or is this just something you kind of pick up on? How does that work?
Good question. That would happen in the pre-assessment. I think there's a balance. Sometimes you are able to read the kid's style, how the parent and the student also interact together. You can see them really blossom when it's after, like, okay, thank you so much for dropping them off to the coffee shop, or whatever. We're gonna go ahead and just connect for a few minutes, come back in 20, and all of a sudden, sometimes the kid, sometimes it's the culture, sometimes it's just who they are, but they are able to just open up and relax when their parent's not there, because sometimes they really want to make their parents so proud, but it also hinders them a little bit. So from there, I'm able just to ask them a few questions, but also we just kind of talk, and just with experience. And sometimes we'll do like a little writing exercise. Hey, I'm just going to give you like I'll just put a timer on for like 5 minutes. Tell me about a fun thing that you're into, a hobby or whatever. I get to assess their writing, their vocabulary they're using. Is writing hard for them? They might be dyslexic. They might, feel very nervous in public. We're in a place. So there's a lot of things in the pre-assessment that I get to find out it's not even just on paper, just, kind of, connecting with them. And then even on Zoom as well, because I, help kids all around the world. So sometimes it's the kids are hungry. The kids are excited. This is for their future. And they may not start off that way, because they're like, oh, well, mom said this or dad told me to be here and talk with you, right?
They have their walls up. At first.
Yeah. But it's pretty funny. You'll get them laughing within the first minute or two, and it's just like, dude, college applications can be really cool. First of all, college is only 4 years of your life. So let's think about like your whole exciting life. What do you want it to look like? Do you want to be in an office? I have one kid that wants to be a dentist. His dad's a dentist. He knows that world, but he doesn't quite want to do dental school yet. He wants to first go to, a school locally here. I don't want to say it just in case, but I want to respect everybody's names and stuff. But yeah, so there's no one way to assess a kid, to go back to what you're sharing. It's very personal. And I think that's the beauty and excitement about the journey for them. It's getting them pumped about their lives and their career. And very similar to what you're sharing about reading, they don't necessarily see it at home, right? Because when you're 15, 16, 17, everyone's going through the motions, whether you're in a sport or then a job or, whatever with family. And so it's kind of like finally their time to just, hey, this is your time to explore, and it's just you and me. And again, with the corporate background, it's very different, because what someone might say, for example, I had someone, I really want to go into marketing. And I'm like, okay, well, here are 7 reasons why you don't want to go into a traditional marketing major. And then here are a few reasons. Let's explore it together. I'm not going to tell them no just because AI can do like half of the stuff that they could go to school for, or look at all the corporate jobs out there that have deleted marketing roles. And we use LinkedIn. And I think LinkedIn is actually one of the best things where we start in phase 1 with being curious and researching. Let's see all the cool paths out there. If someone wants to be you, how would they find out about how your path was? What did you do first? Oh, you were a coach. One of my students wants to work for the San Jose Sharks. She's up in Silicon Valley. She loves and is obsessed with just hockey and sports. And it's all about the San Jose Sharks. I'm like, cool, let's go on LinkedIn. Let's see who works for Sharks and what they started doing. Like, I don't know, I'm not a pro, but I'm an ultimate researcher. I'm so curious, let's do it. And so we got to see, oh, look, they studied, for example, sports psychology, sports communication. They started not at the San Jose Sharks, that'd be nice. First, they started at for example, elementary school hockey. And then over summer, they created their own little summer camp. Oh, well, that shows leadership and business skills. Huh? They did that for a few years. They also got a part-time job here. So you get to kind of see this little ladder. And it's also okay to figure out, I don't like that. Right. But at least I researched it. I went down that road, and then I can pivot. And you might find you want physical therapy instead. And so I think that's a really exciting way, just to assess.
I think that's cool, though. Now, I mean, we were talking about it earlier. Kids nowadays, they have so many tools and resources. I didn't even think about what you just said. Like, you could literally go on and work backwards. Like you're talking about earlier. You figure out this is the guy has the job you want. What did he do to get there? And you could probably do that for 5 or 10 different people and see what the commonalities are between them and figure out these are probably important. And I bet you could probably even get on the phone with one of those people.
That's what we
probably
do.
Call them
up
and say, hey,
we try and intern for them.
I'm trying to do what you're doing. Because I know if somebody called me, if it's a young person that calls me and says, I'm interested in what you do. How did you do it? Can we jump? Sure, let's jump on a call. If you're local, let's go have a drink together. Coffee. And I don't drink coffee, but let's go have a drink, something. Yeah, tea or something.
Everbowl.
Yeah, exactly. Everbowl. Everbowl is always good. But let's just meet up and let's chat about it, because I think it's so great to be able to give back to somebody the things that you want, because we all wish that we could get to where we were faster. And the quickest way to get to where you want to go is to find somebody who's where you've gone and been there and find out how they did it. And if you can do it with a bunch of different people, it can just figure it out. And then you get to A, note, do I really want that? B, I understand what the workload is to get there. And C, like, maybe it's not something that I wanted to do. Maybe I thought it was something else, but now I can redirect and not waste any time. It's like you get to speed everything up.
You do.
And it's a phenomenal time that we're living in with that kind of stuff.
I think the hard thing is kids don't always want to pick up the phone and talk to a stranger. So that's where
it's not a social skill.
It's not. Well, it depends on the kid. It depends on the student, depends on the parent. And so that's what I help them with. One of my students, we did end up going, I think, I'm trying to think it was some business, fashion, sport bras. Wanted to do a sports bra business. Cool. Well, let's talk to someone about it. Got to be on the phone. We used score.org, free resource, all these awesome retirees that were business gurus, owned 5 businesses or banks, et cetera. spoke to them for under 30 minutes for free and found out the cost it would take. And it's like, actually, you know what? I don't really like doing that. It's
Right.
like, I'm so glad, but they didn't quite feel comfortable and they didn't know, like, even if I'm like, go check on score.org, contact somebody. It's like, okay, cool. On Wednesday, when we're going to do our, you know, our meeting, we're going to jump on the phone with them and, you know, or we email them first together. I have them create the email, but we do it together. Tell ChatGPT, this is what I want it to be. And I think they're also learning how to research. You don't want, if someone contacted you, they're like, hey, so do you even have kids? And they didn't do any research about your background. What about instead impressing them? Hey, I saw that you did research on this and this, or you have this background, and it got me interested in this. Now, all of a sudden, and it's not just about stroking the ego, but you got to show that you've done the research, right? It'll make the conversations more exciting. And then they don't feel like you haven't, like, at least done your homework. Like, you got to. Just like, why do you want to come to this school? Why do you want to go to this college? It's such a great community vibe. It feels like college here. That's not a good enough reason. Like, you need
20,000 other people are trying to get in as well.
And all of them are saying the exact same thing.
So you got to stand out.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Yeah.
It's
and
those little things that help you stand out, that research and stuff. And that's stuff that you help them realize. It's like, it kind of sounds like a lot of the stuff that you do is in those minute details. That really is the difference. Because a lot of things you're talking about, I'm putting them together now, but they weren't in my idea of what you needed to do to get into college. Like, I had no idea how all these little things that you're talking about. So that's a very, very cool thing. And you have a very niche business. Like, I mean, I don't know many people that have your business, that actually can have a business, because you got to earn a living. You got to pay your bills. You got to be able to do stuff, hopefully do your savings and all that other kind of stuff. Absolutely. You got to be able to make enough money to do that. And you have to have a lot of students to be able to do that, or have some type of community to do that as well. So to do that, I mean, kudos to you for creating that.
Thank you.
Just so everyone knows, like, I'm already going to find a way to work with you with my last two
I'm
kids.
happy.
That are coming up.
I'm
and
happy
it's funny
to
because
help
as we're having this conversation, I'm thinking to myself, okay, my oldest son, he's a really smart kid. And he's kind of on a path of what he's doing, but just recently I thought maybe college can still be in his future if he wants to. He's 21. I go, but he's still young. Maybe he wants to do, maybe he had good grades in school, and maybe it's a way to, hey, let's go figure out if maybe we can sit him down with you and see if it's something he wants to do. And if he does, he can get into a school and start doing that as well. He's not in a rush to live. You know what I mean? Like, he still lives with us by choice because we want him to stay as long as we can have him. I think we had that conversation
That's
before.
great financially too.
So I just had that idea having that conversation with you. I'm like, well,
I love that.
You know, maybe it might be something that he might still be able to experience if he wants to. At the time, he wasn't ready, but now
I get that so often from parents. My kid just graduated college, or they decided to take a year off. I really need you to help. Can you just sit with my kid and figure out, like, I think he wants to go the vet route, you know, or whatever it is. And it's like, there's really, you know, technically it's kind of like, in a sense, it's like life coaching. Like, let's figure out what you want to do with your life. There's no age limit. You can constantly pivot if you want, or you can explore. And with your son, that's like, hey, I maybe want to go back to school. Hold on. Before we even go into school, let's explore. What are some cool things? Let's do a little personality. Let's check the assessment and just see where you kind of just naturally love and enjoy and you're great at, and then also what's trending, what's in demand. So I think there's a variety of things with his trade. There's so many cool routes he could go. And I'm a big fan. I don't know if you ever saw this with X-Men. There was a scene in X-Men where Iceman and Pyro, and they're going back and forth and they're battling, right? And Pyro's just like, oh, and he's like, doing fire. And, Iceman's like, oh no. And Pyro's just like, ha ha ha, like, you think you're going to win or whatever. Like, oh, you go to school. And then all of a sudden Iceman does something. And he's like, you should have never left school. In other words, always keep learning whatever that's going to be. And Iceman ended up winning. And I love that scene.
I wonder how many people who watch Marvel got that same message. Only an educator.
I'm like, oh my
only
gosh,
an educator got that message from that Marvel scene. Because I know the scene you're talking about. And I'm like, oh yeah, that makes sense now that you said it. But you know what I mean? That's so funny. Right. You're so wired to be like an educator.
The lens.
that you're seeing all of those little lessons in films and stuff. I think that's really cool. It's probably something I'm going to probably bring up with him, because for us, I think a big thing when you're dealing with your children is figuring out what it is they want to do, and if they don't know what they want to do, kind of helping them get to that first step. Yeah. But after that, like I told you before, like my son, I said, look, man, I I don't want you to leave home until you're able to leave home. And I think that that's something that a lot of people miss, is that like they just kind of like throw their kids out into the world, and the world is a harsh place to deal with, especially if you're just out in the world, like trying to survive, as opposed to being in college. Different. You have college is still, you're in a little bubble. Right, you're in a protected bubble where it's a community. You kind of know where to be, where you have a place to stay. You know, you have food. Like, you throw somebody out into the actual world, they got to go like fend for themselves. It's so tough for us. My wife and I were like, look, you can stay here as long as you need to, as long as you're either working or going to school. We're not going to charge you a dime. You get to pay, but if you have a job and you're making money, you need to invest X amount of dollars every single month, or X percentage of your income every month, because that's what your bills would be. And if you do that, we'll pay for everything we normally would pay for. We pay for the food, for your house, for all the utility bills. You pay for your car, your insurance, and your entertainment. But if you do that, you can stay here as long as you want. Because our idea is, when you leave, I don't want you to come back. And mind you, it doesn't mean I don't ever want to see you again. It just means I want you to be able to go out on your own and provide for yourself. And if we do that, then you'll learn that. And hopefully you'll be as courteous when you have kids as well, to do the exact same thing. Because that way, just make kind of life easier. You can focus on the things you want. But after having that conversation, like, I'm going to have a conversation with him this week and talk to him. And I might get him to go to the event tomorrow.
Oh, cool.
Are you going to the event tomorrow?
I have an appointment at 9.
Okay. So I'll find a way to connect with you.
Yeah, but I'll definitely be there the following month. One thing that might be exciting for him to do, other than kind of like the LinkedIn route, but like also, you know, kind of making a list of and asking ChatGPT, Gemini, whatever, what are some of the jobs out there with this type of personality, with this type of assessment, like all my skills. What would I be really great at? And I remember doing something very similar in high school, but then now with all the tools, you can take it to the next level. And also, and you could add in, can you give me 5 companies, 5 examples, 5 names in San Diego that I could look up that relate to, for example, I'm an ENFJ with my personality type. I'm a natural therapist, mentor, teacher. Great roles for me would be being a teacher in high school. Like, all of those were, and I just remember going through that and being like, ugh, I don't want to do that. I want to own my own business. And that's what I thought. I saw myself talking at a seminar table. Everyone's listening to me. I'm on stage. I'm talking. And I saw that, but I didn't quite know, like, who should I have talked to? And in college, thank goodness I went to the Career Center. The academic counselor wasn't very helpful. And I was feeling really frustrated because I wanted to study something about business. And I went to UC Santa Cruz. And thank goodness for her, she's like, Eva, I found this Disney internship. It's super competitive, like only 3% get in, but check it out. And everyone wore jeans. And I remember coming in with my little 19, 20-year-old self with my suit. I had like and it was not
your
like,
idea
I think
of
about
what
it.
a worker looked like.
Yeah, I was dressing for success of like my future self. And I came with my resume and things were printed. And I was just like, okay. And I only knew how to be like excellent thanks to a CPA business class I had been taking. And they said, here's how you dress. And you don't wear big crazy earrings and stuff. And now, as when you're your own business person, you again have to kind of adapt to the customer depending, but also you can put your own fun, pink hair flavor depending on who your type is and who you want to also attract or not. So anyway.
So you just brought up resources and AI specifically. Yes. So I really wanted to chat with you about this because I think that a lot of people don't really know what AI is right now yet. It's kind of I would probably say at least 85 to 90% of the population don't really utilize it the right way. How should parents be looking at it for their children to use? They should be learning it themselves. I think everybody should know it. But how would you recommend that their children utilize it, and how would you tell them and explain to them that this is the reason why it's not cheating, and how you can use it as a resource and a tool for them to get to the conclusion that they're trying to get to in whatever it is, whether it's trying to get into school, whether it's when they're in school and they're working on projects and doing different types of things. What would you advise parents to do? What would you advise parents on how to see that?
That's an excellent question. I typically don't really advise the parents. I'm advising the teen.
I advise parents.
Yes,
so that's why I was curious.
But no. But let's do both, because the teen and the parent, like the parents, like don't use AI potentially, right? And the teen's like, I'm already using AI, and I'm there in the middle saying, hey, we can use AI to start us off, but every third word you need to make sure it's completely different, because it's going to get flagged, and guess what? You'll get kicked out of the university, get kicked out of high school, or whatever that you'll get on probation, or et cetera. And it's like, we don't really want to do that. Plus, we want to also teach you the skills so that you can present and use your own words. Because if you're out there pitching, you have your own business, you can't just be like, hold on one second. There, now I got my AI answer. You can't do that in real life, right? But you can use it to help study. You can have it read to you your answers so that you can, while you're driving over there, you can constantly be hearing all that stuff. And so I would say it's very similar to kind of the thoughts I'm sure they had when I just watched Yellowstone and went through all of it. 1883, 1923, really cool show.
Such a great show.
Oh my gosh, that was so
There's
juicy.
new spin-offs coming, by the way,
Yeah,
but we can
yeah,
talk about
I
that
know.
later.
But I thought, how funny, because I remember in Yellowstone, he was like, this electricity thing. Well, no, we don't need that. Or think about the buggy versus the car, right? And I think it was Harrison Ford who was just like, oh, no, he's playing this role. And it's like, how funny that we were like, no, let's not move up to technology, or, like, let's adapt to the times. And I think there's a little balance of both, because now, honestly, I love riding horses. I love using my own two legs. I also love jumping on a motorcycle. It's really fun. And I think it's a great skill for people to know, just in case the car breaks down. And you need to know stick shift just in case, So I think all of them can be skills to use, but you can't abuse it. And that's what I would share with parents. It's a phenomenal skill. It's something that we can use to adapt. And it's constantly changing. And the last thing we want is to not have that edge and not have that knowledge. And we don't want to be behind. And so it was so funny. My mom, she said, I think bread's bothering me. And I know you'll appreciate this because you're in nutrition. And I'm like, okay, Mom, tell me a little bit more. What are you finding you're sensitive about? Bread, it just makes me always poofy. And I know this because Abuela, she's sensitive to bread. I'm sensitive to bread. And, it's just, there's something in it, the gluten or whatever.
Right.
And I'm like, okay, what else? And she's like, dairy. And I'm like, okay, Mom, do you know, this thing called like paleo or Whole30? And she's like, what is that? And so I go on ChatGPT and I say, these are my sensitivities. Can you build me just, an example 7-day, I maybe do 7. I always try and do small first, like a 3-day sample, breakfast, lunch, dinner, and then also give me a grocery list. And I just typed in, make it like a paleo Whole30 vibe, but nothing too, constrictive. Right. And no joke, she went and she printed that list. She went and she's like, she called me later, Eva, I made beets and I have fish. I feel so good. I'm not lethargic. All thanks to just ChatGPT. So who's to say that it's a bad thing when you can use it in a correct, non-abusive way?
Yeah, it's just about how you use the tool.
Yeah.
It's just a tool at the end of the day. And I just think it's so amazing. Like we were talking earlier, I decided to change up a few things in the way that I'm eating. And so before, what I would do is I would grab, I'm getting to the point where I want to really know the macros, which is like, so, it can be a lot. Yeah. So the average person doesn't want to know about the macros. They just want to, give me something simple that won't be too bad, make me feel good, and won't maybe gain weight. Well, I want to know the macros. So normally I would get each thing. Okay, here's what I did. I put this much of this much of that. Then I would go and I would create a spreadsheet and I would type it all in, and then I would do all the formulas and do all that stuff. Now I go ChatGPT and I say, and the cool thing that people don't realize is if you have a ChatGPT, you can go in and create your own profile. So you go to the back end and you put, this is me. This is I'm married. I'm 50 years old. I have 4 kids. This, and this. Yeah. I enjoy this, and this. I'm into nutrition. I'm into fitness. You can tell. I live in San Diego, California. You put all this stuff in there. So when I go in there and I say, hey, I'm looking for a good place to eat that's macro friendly, not super high in fats and carbs, and what are good places to eat in these kind of categories.
Yes.
It's the prompt that you give it, and the more information you give it, and the more background information it has about you, it literally spits out, well, here's 5 places here in the different parts of the county, and it talks to you specifically by your name. I mean, it's a teachable thing that people don't understand is you can really teach that, everything you need to know. So imagine a student comes into school and like, hey, I'm a freshman going into school. They have their own ChatGPT or Gemini or whichever Claude that they're using. Yeah. And they say, this is me. These are the things that I'm into. This is where my strengths are. This is where my weaknesses are. Yep. And it's just your profile. So now it reads that, and then every question you ask, it first goes back to that profile and says, well, let me find things that will help this person because this is how they learn. It's that detailed. Yeah. And you can get so much out of it. And I think that a lot of times parents are so afraid that, oh, my child's cheating. I mean, my daughter was using it, and I was like, well, let me see what you're using it for. And she's like, I just need to get ideas from it. And I go, that's perfect. As long as you get the ideas. But even more so, like we were talking about earlier, you could literally ask it about a subject that you have that you're studying, and then you could ask it to teach you that subject as if you were a 10-year-old.
Yeah.
So that they really break it down slow so you can comprehend it. And now you understand how to utilize it. So I'm glad that, I'm glad that it's there. I'm glad that you have conversations with the parents, and I think parents should know it is a tool that definitely can be used. It can be abused, like anything, right? Anything can be abused. But
yeah, that's typically not the most concerning thing for parents. For some, it's sleep. I have some students that are very, very academic. They're taking the most competitive courses. And so AI is the least of the thing. It's like, I just want my kid to be able to sleep, and they're always on their phone, or maybe they're not spending as much time with friends, or they're so obsessed with their friends that they're not even thinking about their future. So every kid is a little different. And there's definitely, I see, kind of, in a sense, I would say like two different profiles of typical students and families. There's some that are like your family, where they have very supportive parents. They don't have to worry about the financials too much. They are, again, like, I want to kind of say like high achievers. And then there's this other side where it's like, hey, like, I wish I had all the money in the world. I'm working super hard. We need some scholarships. My kid is working in high school. My kid's also going to be working in, in college as well. But ideally, we'd love it to be in a realm that will be making money, and they want to go after this major, and it's like, that's not going to make a lot of money.
Right.
And so there's kind of like, yes, this mentoring with parents too, but at the end of the day, it's helping the kid and the parent to work also together and empower them both. But it's honestly a lot more on the student. So not so much with parents and problems.
And I understand how that could be, because they have to do all the work. They have to do everything, and it's for what they want. At the end of the day, like for me, it's coaching and what sport they want to play, how far they want to go with it, and what part of their life after their youth do they want it to be a part of? Like how much of a part of their life do they want it to be involved? But when you're talking about academics, which is what you focus on, it's really about what do you want? What is your career going to be realistically?
Yes, it's more career advising than just college advising.
Because athletes, they want their career to be in the profession of being an athlete. And that's 1% of the population, which is it's a dream. But it doesn't mean you can't strive for it. It doesn't mean that you might get close to it. You might not, but all the things that you get along the way are going to be great. I think in your industry, you're really figuring out, and that's what I like about it. It gets me excited when you're talking about it, because it's like, I wish I had someone that would have had this conversation with me.
I hear that all the time.
Because I have I know as an individual, I know myself pretty well, and I was very ambitious. And I didn't mind doing the work. I still don't mind. I love work. I'm a workaholic. Like when we go on vacations, I can't sit too long by the pool. I got to do something. I just feel like I'm wasting time.
Yes.
So if
that's
I would
also a gift.
It is. And I've learned to love it, and I've learned to my wife knows how I am, and so we work. It works.
Balance.
Exactly. But I wish that I had somebody when I was young, like you, to tell me, like, let's figure out what you want to do. What do you love to do? What would you like to be your career? And I'm not talking about when we're 5 or 6, because when you're 5 or 6, you want to be an astronaut, you want to be a doctor, you want to be a fireman, you want to be all those good things. Yeah. Professional athlete. But when you get to those, like you said, 7th, 8th, 9th grade, you start figuring out, like, what is my life going to be like, and how much more powerful it is understanding that I have a plan. I have a destination that I want to reach. I have a plan, and now all I have to do is execute. And if you can teach a student, just like I teach athletes, that executing comes with a lot of failure, and it's okay to fail, like it's part of the process, then it's going to just set them up for success in the future. And I think that, really having a plan with what you do is super beneficial. I think it should be something that school districts have programs that have 5 of you on staff. Honestly, because if you want to have your people, your students get the most out of their lives, like, and that's what counselors do, I guess. But I don't know. I've talked to my kids' counselors, and they're not like you. So I think that
they have also so much on their plate, like with the behavior, and also again because they're under, like we're in California, they have California standards that they have to reach. My background in psychology teaching, I've been in hundreds of homes during tutoring, and I know when the dog is barking, the parents are mad at each other, the kid is just hungry. How in the world are we going to be able just to get you want an A+? We just need to make sure you're getting a C. Right. And so I see all these different dynamics, and so you're able to kind of pinpoint what's really most important. And it's not that the counselors in high school don't care. And I think, again, we're all a team here. I can't do it all by myself. We can't do it just with dad or mom or grandpa, et cetera. Like, we're all a team. And so I think I've definitely communicated with a lot of high school counselors, because sometimes my students have learning difficulties and learning disabilities, and they just need a little bit more support, but maybe their IEP didn't come in. And so how do we communicate with that? And some teachers don't want to necessarily, whatever in their power, they may or may not see the student as like, I want to, I have time, or, these are the rules. And so we're working on with a variety of personalities. And then it's also, I've heard this a million times, my teacher just doesn't like me. And it's just like, okay, so let's figure out how we can make it the most worthwhile for you, because I don't care who loves you, who doesn't like you, you're going to own this. And we have to help empower the teen to want it. But it's like, we can't just always be like, well, that person doesn't like me. We have to be able to empower ourselves to be excellent. And that's one of the most important things. Like, we want to be curious, whether we're trying to get an internship in a different world and we're contacting 100 different professors in this internship, whether it's sports psychology or you just want to work as a plumber. It's like, be curious. You need to be excellent. And what that means is you're phenomenal with your follow-up. You do your homework. You're researching. When you come and you meet them, you're not dressed shabby. Like, imagine you meeting you. How excellent can you be? And a lot of that will be the first 5 seconds they're going to, judge you, just like in your essay. Mm-hmm. Is your essay excellent? So we can go over essays. That's a whole different thing that parents are always like, can you tell me about the essay? So we can talk about that. So yeah, I would say curious and excellence is one of the most important things for kids. And I know that's a whole different side note from the counselors.
Yeah, no. And I totally agree with, it basically takes a village. Because that's the way it is. Like, I'm so happy that I live in a community where I have lots of good friends. That our kids all grew up together. They know us, we know them. Like, I'll have a friend call me and say, hey, I saw, Jaden driving by earlier by the thing. She was on the back of a moped thing or a e-bike. Like, you might want to have and I can have a conversation with her, because a friend of mine who was part of that tribe in the community picked up the phone and told me, what was going on, which is great. In terms of, so I didn't mean to.
No worries, please.
I didn't mean to put down. Counselors, because I know that they do the best they can.
I've heard
they're
things.
Probably really very overwhelmed. But when I said it. I think what I really meant was, if they had somebody like you that was to support the counselors, because not every student is really going to want to go after it and get it. But you are going to have, let's say, 50% of them that really want to do something, and then the other 50% you work on helping them figure out that they really want to get something. But you take that first 50 that's ready to go, and they go to people like you, and they can really get dialed in, get in their plan, and get going. I think we would see tremendous growth in our schools, in our academics, in the quality of life that the kids have.
Absolutely.
Would be amazing.
Aw, thank you.
touched on the essays, and I wanted to talk to you about the essays. So
Can we pause, because I want to go back real quick?
Yes.
There's a social component in high school too that I don't have with my students. So in high school, they're around all their friends, and if someone maybe sees them, go talk to the counselor and not. So there's all that too. When they're with me, no one else is listening. No one else can hear. Even the parents. Sometimes the parents speak a different language, and it's just the kid and I talking about one of the most powerful essays. Or we'll transition here. He was coming out, and in his background, he would potentially be put to death for coming out. And doing research with the right university, the right message, and having him be able to share his voice and how he overcame this challenge. What did he learn from it? What was the analysis? All those things are beautiful components for an essay, whatever you're talking about.
Right.
And so it was one of the most powerful essays I think he's ever written. And he ended up getting into this top 5% school. And that was super. I remember him calling me, and I was in the car driving, and I was like, no way. And that's the best part about my job, other than, you're part of these kids' lives really, like, the rest of their life. And in 10 years, they're going to get married. I get to go to their wedding, which is phenomenal. Now that I've done this for over 15 years, they're having babies, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I remember when you couldn't even drive yet. And so it's really exciting. Or their puppy dies, and, you're there to be able to console them. And, it's like, we wrote the essay about them. They'll always still live. So it's, it's just a super loving and warming environment. So let's talk about essays.
Yes.
There are over 10 different essays. There's not just one type. For some schools that are, the Ivy Leagues or even just state schools, they just want, some of them don't even require an essay. And I love that on one component because they're not judging you how well you can write. They're judging you on, a different portfolio. But for those that do have the essays, I think it's a great way to just show that you're a different sense of competition. And you can do that from the very first hook sentence. And the hook sentence is like that exciting. It doesn't just have to be a question or a statement. It could be something in a different language and then you relate it. It could be in different quotes. It could be a funny statistic. So there's a lot of cool parts, but we never start with the hook in the very first part of the essay. First, we kind of very similar. We do like a little exploration of all the cool things that we could write about for this topic. Let's say it's talking about describe a challenge you've overcome. And I really love that question because we've all gone through something. And sometimes we have to dig a little because, the kids are like, I haven't been challenged in any way. I'm like, oh, really? Because I thought you said like your friends just got mad at you and you were able to, get over that. Like what happened? And so sometimes calling them out, making it funny and helping them see all the challenges. And if they really can't find anything, we could go and turn now to ChatGPT and we can, hey, what are some irregular challenges that teenagers go through in because we don't want what everyone else goes through. I've had many students want to write about basketball and how I overcame adversity and I didn't get accepted. And that's like the worst essay because I've seen it a million times and I don't feel it really can showcase your personality and your growth different than the other 20,000 students. Because what are you saying?
Separate yourself.
I worked hard, I worked on my drills, and then poof, I got accepted to varsity, whatever, or I moved up. And it's like, okay, let's talk instead about, when your parents were going through a separation and how that was really hard, but you were there for your sister. Tell me about that. What was a story that happened between just you and your sister? So now we're painting the picture for the reader.
So you're helping them, you're probing them and helping them kind of like bring that out.
Oh, yeah.
So you're a ChatGPT for them.
Slash like psychologist. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. It's really fun. And I mean, once they, again, very similar to once they find that topic that really like that they're excited about, the story will just come. But sometimes the story is too big. And they get worried like, oh, Miss G, I'm so beyond the 650 words. There's like 3,000 words here. And I'm like, it's cool. Just write. Like now we're
Get it all out on the paper.
Yeah, we might go through 15 drafts. We might go through 5. But it's so much easier to cut when you have a bunch. Mm-hmm. If you're struggling with every word, this isn't going to be the essay for you because we're just pulling teeth and it's just way too hard. It's kind of like being natural. Like I used to play tennis in high school and I remember teaching it. And so when I got into pickleball, I was just like, oh, dude, this is so easy. Da-da-da. If I didn't have all those drills that I had in high school, I wouldn't be able to coach pickleball. Yeah. So you want to find the essay that kind of they naturally gravitate and they're excited to write and talk about. But sometimes they also don't know how do I write this story?
What's important about it?
Yeah.
Like what's going to grab the attention of the counselor that's reading it or the acceptance person that's reading it?
True. And also what's the college want? Because some colleges want you to be very academic and show that you're scholarly and learning, right? We're talking about those top super competitive colleges versus some of them really want you to show your creative side. There's a school on the East Coast that's like, we already know all of you have 4.6 GPAs.
Right.
Like,
everybody does.
What else?
That's like the standard, the minimum.
Yeah. Like, tell us something quirky about you. Like, tell us how you're different than other humans. And that's a really hard thing because it's kind of like I remember learning this about hot air balloons. It's all been done before. So instead of trying to have like the most unique essay, just make it something that you would be able to share in a story for like a job interview. Like, tell me about yourself. And then you'd be able to say, oh, I taught in Italy and I remember once there was this bar fight just because they learned we were Americans. Wait, what? Yeah, like they could hear us. And how did I pivot when I got slammed in the head? Like that really happened to me. It happened to me in Spain. And I was like 15, 16. And we were with our teachers, because that's part of the culture. You hang out with your teachers after, and it was very professional, but it was like, it made the news that we, our little local Spain news,
right.
That we got, whatever, pounded on or something. And it's like, oh, shoot, well, that's a phenomenal story.
Right.
How did
so
we overcome
unique.
it?
It's so unique.
Yeah.
It's so personal to you. And then you're writing about what you got from it and the experience and how it shaped you or made you. And like, I always wonder when you're writing essays,
Yeah.
when I learned how to write an essay, I learned just the structure of it. And for me, the structure was this simple. And I don't even know if it's right or not, but I got really good at writing it.
Yeah.
And it was, in an essay, you're going to tell them what you're going to tell them about.
Okay.
Then you're going to tell them. And then you're going to tell them what you just told them about. Like, that was literally it. Those
That's a
three
great
things,
start.
Yeah, that's how it started. But then for me, I would vomit on the page, which is to put everything that you have out on the subject, on the information. Just start, like I said, just start writing. And then you had all this information. You're so right. You can bring it back down. I would even go now. I mean, if I was doing it now, I would do that same thing, write it all out. I would type it, then I would throw it in ChatGPT. I would say, make this sound a little bit nicer. Then I would take it and reduce it down to 1,000 words, whatever the number is. And then I would take that in and I would rewrite it in my own words because it was my information.
Yep.
I gave it my information. I didn't cheat. I didn't say, hey, this many years old, I went to school, like write me something. No, it was all my info. And I just had them help me grammatically put it down and shape it to where I wanted it to be. And I could see how you use it. But essays are so, how big a part of the equation are essays when it comes to getting in?
Depends on the class, depends on the university.
Class meaning the year that they're graduating?
Yeah. So for example, last year was the most competitive year. I would say essays were huge. Like the top 3 things they're judging you on besides GPA, extracurricular activities, and your essays. But this year, there's going to be far less students applying because in 2007, 2008, less babies were born. So in a sense, it's kind of exciting. Like there's going to be less students applying. However, those students that are applying, are they going to be of higher caliber? I know, or whatever it might be. I think the hard thing about going back to ChatGPT real quick, ChatGPT can help you create a really awesome essay. Woohoo! But is that really answering the question, the prompt, in the way that that college wants you to? For example, Stanford is saying, why do you want to come to Stanford? Yale is asking the same thing, and so is Princeton. So how do I write a different essay? You don't have to redo everything. You have kind of a beautiful recipe of who you are, but you still have to be able to share Stanford. This is why Stanford is so exciting to me. This is why the major is a great fit for me. My background, I had one student, it was one of the first students I helped with college. She got into Yale. And I remember being like, holy shnikes. Like, wow.
Huge Ivy League school.
Right? Her essay that she gave to me was like, you know, she had never done it before. And she's just like, okay, here. And it's like, oh, this is a really good essay. But it's not what the colleges necessarily want. ChatGPT will help you write a great generic essay. And it could be a little bit more specific. But it still might be missing. And from what I've seen, it's still, I would say it's like a B- for where we need it to be. It needs to be at this different level. No matter how much you say, bring in more advanced vocabulary. That's not it.
Right.
Bring in more analysis. The analysis you have here, kind of like in your soul, that's what you need to be able to bring.
Unique.
Yes. And the learning things that sometimes these essays are so emotional, like, you know, the kid has been abused before, or the relationship they have with a parent is non-existent and they no longer talk with them. Like there's some crazy heartfelt essays. You're just crying when you're reading it with the kid and you're like, okay, this, like, bless you. I'm so excited that you've overcome that. But here's all the grammar stuff that we have to get through. Sorry. And so, yeah, every essay is unique. Sorry. But that's just to go back to ChatGPT. It can help you with a lot, but there still needs to be, depending on the university, if you want to be competitive.
But it sounds like it's all a learnable skill. It sounds like, you know, working with somebody like you that specializes in this kind of stuff, knowing where they want to go and utilizing like that information, really teaching, you're drawing out of them the information that you know, the story that's going to be the most polarizing for them, and for the university to make them interesting, to make them stand out, to make them different, and then helping them shape that themselves. Whether you're utilizing a tool to get you some ideas or to
cut words, absolutely.
Yeah, whatever the case may be. It sounds like it's a very learnable trait, and the earlier you start off, the less scary I think it would be for them, because it's probably a pretty scary thing having to write an essay for people that aren't like writers. They don't like writing things.
Yeah, and that's why it's so important to start early. Like I have parents come to me and it's like late their junior year And it's like, shoot, we have to go through, phase 1, 2, and hurry up and rush to 3 versus if we could start, ninth, 10th grade, now we have time, and we have time for your student to be able to get so much more experience, because those internships and those jobs and learning AI and building your own code, that's a beautiful essay story. That is your experience. And the customer that was really mean to you and you learned the most from it, that's a great story for your essay and also career. But how are we supposed to jam all that in? August 1st, applications open. Oh, by the way, homecoming, finals, midterms, senior year. There's just so much, and it's really stressful. So it could be a fun, awesome experience, but parents just don't know, and kids don't know, and that's where I get to help bring in the questions.
Yeah, we can only teach our kids what we know. So I always tell people, my son would ask me, like, how come you don't know how to do this? I go, my parents didn't know that.
Yeah.
Like, I had to learn it on my own.
Yeah.
I saw it in the real world, and I found somebody to teach it to me, or I grabbed it in a book and I figured it out. But I go, our job is I can only teach you what I know. It's my job, if I don't know it, to find professionals that do know it, so I can expose you to them, and then they can help you learn those things that I just don't know how to do. So I think that's great. Earlier, when we were talking about the essays, you mentioned kind of some pillars. Are there a certain amount of pillars that every school looks for? I mean, you got GPA, you got SAT or ACT if they have it, you got essays. Like, what are those pillars that parents and students should be knowing? Like, these are the 5 or 6 things that I need to be on top of and know where I am, so I know that I give myself the best chance.
So in phase 1 exploration mode, we go through all this. Okay, we figured out where kind of you are academically, extracurricular wise. Do you play sports, clubs, what's your major, et cetera? And then how impacted is that major at that college? The college may be easy to get into, but it's a 5% acceptance rate for business. Well, shoot. Well, that means I go back, I look at all my internships I could potentially get, the businesses I could potentially, build, bring, support, and I need to make sure I bring that. So it's so personalized. Like, if some students really need to bring up their academics and they have, their Girl Scout, they already have, they've been working on, they've been interning for, 2 years at a hospital. It really depends on what is kind of lacking in their portfolio to bring up. If I could only say 5 components, it would be GPA, number 1. With AI and different avenues of technology now, it's not like, every single person gets every single one. It sounds like with the communication out there, it's like you're getting judged on GPA so harshly for a variety of colleges, not all.
Because there's so much more help now.
Is that
it kind of closes the gap?
I
think GPA just in general, but
I think kids are a different caliber than they were years ago. Just like my 4-year-old niece, she is brilliant. I didn't know half of the stuff, but maybe you're right. Maybe it's the learning,
technology.
what she's exposed to. Yeah.
Think about it. My kids, when I don't know how to do something now, and I'm very techie.
That's true.
But when I don't know how to do something, I just give my son the phone. Here, can you fix that?
Yeah.
And he just does it. And he's like 12.
Yeah.
And he'll just knock it out. And I don't know how to do it. So it's just technology.
No, that's a good point.
When I was coming up, the internet just came out in '93. That was my senior year in high school. The internet just came out. It was brand new. We had MS-DOS computers, like the little green screen with the little things. It was nothing. You didn't want to do anything because it looked dumb and it wasn't fun. But we grew up in that. So I know what it was like before internet and now after internet. And we're so much more advanced than that. You would think that GPAs would be higher. Just because
they are.
Have more. Yeah. I know. I was looking at
crazy.
something. What was I looking at? I was looking at something and my daughter's soccer team, they have this awesome brochure that one of the team moms, our team mom's awesome, and she created this brochure and it has all their info. And you just look at all these girls, and I know the girls because I've known them for years, watching them, but you don't really know them, and you're just like 4.6, 4.2, 4.4, 4.6, 3. Like, you're like, Jesus, these kids are freaking brilliant.
Yeah.
But it's the standard, and there's so many smart kids out there, so that's the reason why. But anyway, you were continuing with GPA in terms of the pillars.
GPA is number 1. Also, depending on the sport, there are certain GPAs that are higher. Tennis, golf tend to have the highest GPAs, soccer as well. And then there's other, baseball and football. It depends, of course, on the person. Right. But they find, isn't it interesting that the GPAs are a little lower on certain sports? It's also who you hang out with and also where you want to go. Just because all your friends, and this is very similar with internships and extracurricular activities, all my friends are for example, donating their time and doing, Feeding America or whatever. Well, I really want to do this for college and I want to do this for my career. Let's get you experience in that now, because whether you continue with college or, when you graduate, you could be having this money making machine and you're getting your degree. Like, how cool is that? Every summer you have something to fall back on. So you're not just relying on one outlet, only college or only that trade, right? Like your
Right.
son as well. So, sorry, you asked me a question.
No, just the pillars.
The
So
pillars,
were
thank
talking
you.
about
GPA, yes.
I'm assuming that one was extracurricular.
Yes. So what are extracurricular activities? Let's make sure we define that. Extracurricular activities are exactly what it sounds like. It's extra, right? And we want to be extra outside of what all of our friends are doing. If all our friends are volunteering here, we want to be able to do something, and it maybe relates to business. It depends what your major is. So even though they judge you on that, it's really helpful for the assessment first, because it's like, well, I don't even know where I need to get an extracurricular, what internship do I need? For some students, so 5 great extracurriculars right now, if you want to know what's trending, doing research with professors, if that's in line with the major you want to go.
Right.
I have a student that is huge in marine biology, and we got her into a top school that has a lab, and she started her own marine biology club in her senior year in high school, and she started an Instagram, and she connected with all the marine biology professors, and once a month she would have a speaker. So even though it was a short amount of time, girl took action.
Yeah.
And this was the same awesome. She's a cool student. This is the same person who came to me and she's like, I don't know if I really want to go to college. I just want to travel the world. COVID just happened, and I don't know, my mom went to this Ivy League. I don't want to do it. And it was the coolest experience to see her go from that. And it's also, you see the maturity and the empowerment that kids start feeling, and when they start learning about, oh, this is for me, this is not about for mom, for dad, for
Right.
everybody else,
They take ownership of it.
oh shoot, yeah, this is all on me. And so it's like, yeah, it was a super cool transition to see her, and yeah, she got accepted. It was huge caps in my text. She's like, Miss G, so we got extracurricular activities besides GPA. You can do internships. Again, I always relate it to the job avenue, the major. You want your portfolio to match. So whatever those clubs that you're doing, the extracurriculars, the internships, you want it to kind of match that story that you want to show the college. You don't want to necessarily have I do coding. By the way, I help lizards and I love, food too. And it's like, okay, who are you? Right. Depending on the college. Again, some colleges want to see you want this UC Berkeley. You want this competitive major. For example, only 7% get in. Prove it. And it's like, oh, well, I interned in India with this economics professor. I reached out to this finance person and I interned for them. So everything kind of just matches.
Got it.
And it's not about quantity. It's about the quality. But you still want to show diversity, that you have these skills, but it relates to, for example, the economics and business realm. It sounds like it's so much pressure for kids. I know like parents or something, I can't believe they have to do all this. And I'm like, but isn't it also really cool that instead of just spending your summer oh, I need to do summer camp. One of my kids, she's like, well, I found this job and I could do summer camp. I'm like, you can. You said you want to be an engineer. Is a summer camp in relation to engineer?
Right.
No, it's, Girl Scout, blah, 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 whatever. And I'm like, that's great. Girl Scouts is different, but that's great. What if it was about something about engineering?
Right.
What if you did a podcast and you interview all these engineers? What if they're on the board of the colleges and you're interviewing them before you even get accepted to the college? There's so many cool things you can do to stand out and be that, top competitive student and build your portfolio. Okay, so going back. We got GPA. You're going to have to edit all this. Sorry.
No, it's great. It's all good. I'm not editing nothing. It's all good stuff.
We got GPA. We got extracurriculars, internships, clubs. And then we also have how interested have you shown yourself to the university? Have you reached out to the professors, the advisors? Have you built connections? Have you, that's kind of on the extra realm. Have you done the college tours, and were you kind of just a moth on the wall? Or were you actually involved and you did research about the college before? I have all my students make these, they could just put it in their phone, but I have them write them down so they can also see which are the top 2 to 3 points they want to make sure they ask in the tour. And some kids are scared, I get it, but sometimes the tour guide will let everybody kind of mosey on. And you can just sneak over and be like, hey, tell me about your experience here. Why did you choose this college? They may have heard that question all the time, but now they get to, that's a great little icebreaker.
Yeah.
And then from there, if you didn't choose this college, what would be the reason why? Oh, shoot, now you're getting a little deeper. And so you're building this connection like, hey, you know what? Let's connect on LinkedIn. Boom. Now I have a connection in my essay. If it's asking why this school, you could name drop.
I spoke to so-and-so.
Yeah,
he told me this.
Yeah, they told me they loved this experience. And I mean, the essay is really supposed to be about you, but also why do you want to go to this college? I made this great connection. So yeah, it's really powerful. Webinars are huge because you can't necessarily go visit. Maybe you checked out 50 universities that have your major, your academic style, has the resources. I had one kid and he's like, I only want to choose colleges that let me still surf. That limits us.
Right, we're on the what coast?
That means California, Florida, you know,
Yeah, exactly.
so maybe not Florida. I don't even know if you can surf in Florida. And so it's just like there's that really, you know, your colleges are a little less. How can we make sure that you still show the colleges you're interested in and you attend webinars and you participate, you show up, you stay to the freaking end. You were the first person there and you were the end, just like a job interview.
Yeah.
It's so, in a sense, easy to be excellent, but it's also the kids don't know.
They don't know. It's
Yeah,
just about it's really
they
about. It
don't
sounds like it's
know.
really just about educating them. All these are the things that
Yeah.
you want to focus on. That way, their energy is focused
Yeah.
to that. Because if they
Yeah.
know what they're supposed to do, they're more
Yeah.
likely to do it than if they didn't know what they're supposed to do. It's like a lot of
Yeah.
customers that I have that I work with in nutrition. I would say the number one reason why people aren't in the best shape they want to be in is because they don't know how.
Yeah.
If people have a plan, then they can choose to follow it or not. But most times people just don't have a plan, so they can't follow it.
Yeah.
That's not even an option. Same thing, it seems like, with these kids, helping them get the right plan.
Yeah. Sometimes they also know because you give them the plan, but now it's the accountability.
Right.
And so
Do
it's,
I really want to do it?
yes,
Do I really want to do this work or not?
they want
is
to,
good.
but are they making time for it? And so I just give them, hey, by Friday, 6 p.m., you need to send this to me. And sometimes it's a little late. Maybe it's 8 p.m. I've had kids, they'll stay up late and they'll do it. I'm not going to check it till,
You just want
Saturday,
it done
Sunday.
that day.
It's for them.
Yeah.
I don't even care. It's for
Right.
them. You know, and I let them know that. I'm like, this is all for you. You have my support regardless. And it's also sometimes they're working so hard and they may not get accepted into that college and they feel defeated because all their friends are like, I applied early and look, I already got accepted. We. And it's like, yeah, but you're different. You know, it's
Right.
okay that we're taking a little more time on your essay because you submitted the other 10. Like, we're on your own time. And so sometimes they feel like that outside pressure too. But a lot of it is just accountability because they do
Right.
know what they need to do. But it's like, hey, by Friday, you need to submit this. And I have a final. I hear all the excuses. And it's like, I understand. And
Still has to get done.
we still have to do it.
Yeah, exactly.
And
I
so-
think
yeah,
I think
so-
too people people need to understand that you should really stay away from comparison. Like, you really should stay. Everybody is running their own race, right?
Yes.
And it's a marathon. Life's a marathon. It's not a sprint. So if kids understand that all I have to worry about is myself, I'm not comparing myself. I'm just getting better each day at whatever it is. For athletics, that's what it is. It's for my kids. It's all about, hey, did we get better today? Did we do something to get better today?
Yeah.
If not, I don't care what's happening over here. I don't care what this kid is doing on Instagram that he's doing. He has 200,000 followers. I don't really care about that. That doesn't affect you, right? So you focus on yourself and focus on just getting better, then you're going to be in a much better place if you just did that, as opposed to comparing yourself to people outside who you don't know what their background is, what their lifestyle is, what their parents are,
Yeah.
where they live, the resources they have. Like, all that stuff, all those variants are so much different. And if you don't know how to take those into account, it can really, like, beat you down.
No, absolutely. I think a lot of the pressure also comes from parents because it's all parents will talk about at that time. And so it's a beautiful thing to be able to just remind the teen that, hey, this is about you, and maybe this is what the parents are talking about, and that's what they're choosing to talk about. We're just going to focus on your path, and we're applying to these 3 different types of schools. I haven't even talked about that. Like, you know, they're like the...
We're going to have to bring you back for like this. I
Sorry.
think that once I go through this episode, I'm going to get some very poignant
questions.
that, because right now we're just free flowing, figuring
Yeah.
out, like, I'm just interested
All
in
good.
all the stuff you have, and
Yeah.
there's been so much good information, but I'm definitely going to have you back and have some really specific topics so that we can use it more as a specific educational piece.
Happy to.
And then you can get customers from there because they want to do it specifically for
Hey,
them.
if I'm able to help one person and they're able to write a better essay, or they can look at the college experience or even just their career, because it's not just college is not for everybody. And that's also the very first question, because I had one kid and she's like, wait, what's a trade? And I'm like, so our first question is, are we more interested in college? Are we more interested in trade? Here's what the college route may look like. Here are different avenues of trades. Oh, like it never even been shared. And same thing in my home. It was all about college. There's no other option. And now with college debt and the competitiveness, maybe it's not a bad idea for you to go into whatever, electrician or plumber or nurse, or some girls are doing eyebrows and they went through esthetician school. They are making over $100 an hour. They're able to work 3 times a week. They love what they do. They help make a change for someone. Who's to say that's not, and maybe in a year or two, they'll want to do a nursing or orthodontist class. Like there's a beautiful avenue, like you said, like you have a plan and then you can take that recipe to the next thing that you want to execute. So
we're definitely gonna have to do another one.
Sorry.
But I wanted to say I thoroughly enjoyed having you
Are we
on
done
the show.
already?
Yeah, we're good for now. But
Okay.
you're one of those guests that you're gonna have to do a second one.
I'd love to.
But let's get together. I want to get together with you before that, and we'll figure out what we want to talk about, so it can be very strategic and specific. Because I think there's so much information that you just gave that I think needs to be laid out and detailed in a more in a better trajectory, so people can really get the most out of what's in your brain without having to hire you up front, which I hope they do, because I'm going to. I already see the value. So anyway, I wanted to thank you so much for being on the show.
So
it was
much.
such a great
Such a
conversation.
blast.